of the family. Today we're going to be taking a look at Monopoly Deal, the card game. In this video I'll give you a quick overview of the rules, then we'll have a quick look at a few gameplay turns so you can get a feel for how the game's played, and finally we'll come back for my final thoughts. So Monopoly Deal obviously bears the name Monopoly, but as you notice there's no board. This is entirely a card game played with a big stack of cards. In the game the object is to be the first player to get 3 completed sets. By the way, I should point out, this is obviously the English version I'm using, so it's got the standard properties I would expect in my local regional board. I assume this is country specific, and if you're going to buy in America, you'd get the American version, but obviously this is, you'll see the English road names here. So in this case, this player has managed to complete brown, the green set, and the dark blue, and therefore would win the game. We're getting ahead of ourselves. How does the game play? Each player will have a hand of 5 cards. On their turn, they draw 2 cards from the deck, and then they get to play up to 3 actions. These actions can be either banking money, it can be playing a property to the board, or it can be playing an action card. So unlike a lot of card games, cards in your hand don't do anything. In order for a card to take effect, it has to be played onto the board. But before I go into more detail, I think it's probably worth having a quick look at some of the cards and what they do. So to start off with, here's some examples of money cards. Very, very simple, different denominations, ranging from 1 million up to 10. Then we've already seen some, but we've got some property cards. Again, these are the English names. This is Fleet Street, part of the red set. But unlike, again, standard Monopoly, we've got differences. So we don't just have property cards, we also have property wild cards. So here's an example of a card that could be either a red or a yellow. But we don't just have those wild cards, we also have a couple of these incredibly powerful any wild card. So this card can be literally used for any property in the game. Like standard Monopoly, once you've got your full set, you can build a house, and once you've built a house, you can build a hotel. And just like the standard game, these add to the rent. So for example, if we come to everyone's favourite Mayfair and Park Lane, the full set here is 8 million for the rent. The house adds, as you can possibly see, if it can focus, apparently it's not going to focus, but it adds 3 million to the rent, and the hotel adds another 4 million. So in total, this would be worth 15 million. Speaking of rent, how do you charge people? If there's no board, how do people land on you? Well, they don't. The answer is, you play these rent cards as one of your actions. So, there are 2 different types of rent cards. You've got these ones which are a dual symbol. So this can either be a pink or an orange. But this one will charge all players that rent. Obviously, in this example, I couldn't use it because I've only got the dark blue set. You also get this type of rent card. This is obviously a multicoloured one. You can play it for any colour, so I could use this for the dark blues and charge 15 million. But the difference here, and again, I don't know if this is going to focus properly, but this only gets played against one player of your choice. We then have double the rent, which is fairly self-explanatory. You play it with a rent card to double the amount of rent charged. And again, that will go off the basic rent, so it would either, if I was to play it with this card, it would double it for 1 player, and if I was to play it with this card, it would double it for all players. Next, we have Pass and Go. So just like in Raw Monopoly, Pass and Go gives you money. Here it doesn't give you money, it gives you the other currency. It lets you draw 2 more cards. Then we have a couple of these random ones. So this is a debt collector. It forces any one player to pay you $5 million. And similarly we have the It's My Birthday, which makes every other player give you $2 million. And then we have the 3 mean cards. So if charging rent isn't bad enough, you can play a Sly Deal on somebody. Sly Deal lets you steal a property from somebody else. There is a restriction that property cannot be part of a full set. So if this was a situation here, and someone played Slide Deal on me, they couldn't take any of the greens because that's a full set, but they could easily take Old Kent Road. Similarly to Slide Deal, we've got Force Deal. Force Deal does exactly the same thing, but rather than stealing a card, you actually swap one of your cards with one of theirs. So again, if I really wanted, let's say I had Whitechapel in my hand and I had Fleet Street, I could use Force Deal. I could play Force Deal, and I could swap Fleet Street with this player and steal their Old Kent Road to make it a full set. Now, full sets are usually protected. You can't use Force Deal or Slide Deal with a full set, but you can use Deal Breaker, possibly the nastiest card in the game. It lets you steal a completed set from somebody. That might be the nastiest card in the game, but probably the most powerful one, and one that people always want to get, is Just Say No. This prevents any action card being played against you, whether that action card is the Deal Breaker, or any of the other ones that steal property, or whether it's the rent cards, etc. You can play this instead, and you don't have to pay rent, and you don't have to give up your property. So, there are the cards. Actually, there's a whole big stack of them here, with all the different multiple copies of things. There's only obviously one of each property, but those wild cards can let you make sets fairly easily, actually. So how do you play? So each player will start the game with 5 cards. So in this case, I would have, let's get rid of these for a sec, and let's get rid of them for a sec. So I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now the first thing I do on my turn is you always draw 2 more cards. Okay, so this would be my hand. And just to explain, at the end of your turn you can never have more than 7 cards. If you do, you have to discard some until you're down to 7. So I start with 5, I've drawn my 2, and now I can play up to 3 actions. Now those actions can be, I can choose to bank money. Now obviously these wouldn't actually be in my hand, but I've only got one hand at the moment because I'm holding the camera. So while they're in your hand here, they don't do any good. Once you play them to the table, they become part of your tableau, and this is where money is paid from and properties are played to. So I could bank 5 million, I could then play maybe my waterwork, and I could play my electric company, my 2 utilities, and that would actually be 1 completed set. I would then be down to 4 cards, sorry. And then it would be my opponent's turn. On my next turn, I could then take another 2 cards, and I could then decide what to do. So in this case, I might want to maybe bank some more money, and then maybe I could play It's My Birthday to get some more, and then I could maybe play Debt Collector and pick one person to get some more. Now, you'll notice that on all the action cards, and in fact the properties as well, we'll deal with properties in a sec. You notice in all the action cards there are coin values, or money values, and in fact on Debt Collector as well, that I've just played. So this is 3 million, this is 1 million, and this is 1 million. So let's say I had this card here, and I don't have any of the light blue. I don't know if the colour's picking this up properly, but this is the light blue and brown. I don't have any of those properties, so this card's a bit worthless to me. So instead what I can do is I can choose to bank it. As soon as I bank it, it then is essentially out of the game. It becomes money. This can never be used for that action again. And again, obviously I could do the same with this and get another million, or I could bank Debt Collector. It's a bit silly banking Debt Collector, because playing it would obviously force someone to give you 5 million, whereas this would only give you 3 as cash. But it could be that maybe you're worried that somebody else has got a Just Say No card, and therefore you could play it and end up not getting anything. So now I've got quite a bit of money in my account, 5, 6, 7, 10 million. So why do I want 10 million? Because of the rent and these things like Debt Collector and things like It's My Birthday. So let's say I hadn't banked any of these, okay? And let's say I had some cards in my hand, which are out the game for now, and this is all I had in my tableau at the end of my turn. So I've got 2 properties, that's great. And then somebody comes along on their turn and they play It's My Birthday. Now, you might remember, It's My Birthday causes me to give people £2 million. But I don't have any money. This is where the value on the property comes in. So if I don't have any money, I have to pay them with a card. So I'd have to give them one. I mean, it doesn't really matter which one, but I would have to give them one of my properties. And therefore that would go to the other player, and I'd be down to one, and that'd be my one set that's now been broken. So it's always quite handy to keep a pile of cash in your bank just for those situations. Now let's say I hadn't played anything. Let's say, for example, maybe I hadn't had my turn yet, or I'd done actions and just drawn more cards and for some reason hadn't played anything to the table. If I then have to pay somebody money, I can't. Okay, so that person kind of loses out the benefit. Equally, let's say I just had this one in front of me, and somebody played the debt collector, which makes me pay them 5 million. Then I could only give them this. That's all I could give them, and the other 3 million is essentially forgotten about. So that is basically the rules. You can never have more than 7 cards at the end of your turn. But it's a very, very quick game. It's, you take 2 cards, you play up to 3 actions, then pass this around. So that's the overview of the game. I'll stop this here, and then we'll come back and we'll do a couple of playthrough videos.